This will be for the con exercise, differentiating functions, find the error. All right, Leon tried to find the derivative, radical x over cosine of x. Step one, this is the quotient of radical x and cosine of x, so we should use the quotient rule. That's correct. This is a quotient, something divided by something. Step two, let me rewrite the equation. All right, so we have the original here. So basically, the numerator would be your u, and the denominator would be the v. And for the quotient rule, that's going to be the bottom times the derivative of the top. So that's vu prime minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. That's uv prime all over the bottom squared. All right, this right here would be the quotient rule. So what did he do in step two? Well, when he took the derivative of the original function, all he did was take the derivative of the numerator and the derivative of the denominator. Okay, that is not sufficient. You need to go through this whole process, not just the derivative of the top and bottom. So step two was the mistake right there. All right, so you can ignore the rest, and step two is incorrect. All right, Caddy tried to find the derivative of 2x squared minus 4 to the third. Here is her work. Step one, 2x squared minus 4 raised to the third power, so we should use the power rule. All right, this is actually a little bit tricky wording in step one, and I'll show you. This here is basically an algebra expression, u to the third. Okay, and when you take the derivative of that, that's going to be 3u squared times the derivative of u. Okay, so really, it's not really the power rule, because the power rule would just be, say, x to the n, and then when you took the derivative, it would be n times x to the n minus 1. But in this case, you have to multiply by the derivative at the end. If you remember from the notes, okay, when we did this, we let u be an algebra expression, u to the n, it's going to be n times u to the n minus 1 times the derivative of u. Okay, that is really the chain rule. All right. So even though it's mostly like the power rule, it mostly acts like the power rule, it's not the power rule. Okay. So step one is the mistake. And you can see in step two, when she takes the derivative of x to the third and just gets 3x squared, it's not appropriate for this. Okay. So this one is just a little bit tricky, but basically when you have an algebra expression raised to an exponent, that is going to be the chain rule, okay, not the power rule. So really, that's the mistake right there in step one. Tricky problem, or tricky wording at the very least. All right, so step one, different rule, not the power rule. All right, Olga tried to find the derivative of sine of x times radical x. Here is her work. This is the product of sine of x and radical x, so we should use the product rule. Yes, that's correct. Okay, this is sine of x times radical x. That is a product, so product rule is appropriate. Step one is good. Step two, okay, she tried to apply the product rule. If you remember the product rule, if you have your u times v and you take the derivative, it's going to be first times the derivative of the second. So that's u times v prime plus the second times the derivative of the first, v times u prime. Okay, is that what she did here? Well, you're adding here, so the order doesn't matter. Okay, but basically, she took the derivative of the first term and multiplied by the second term. So that is this one right here. That's good. And then she took the first term and multiplied it by the derivative of the second term. That's this one right here. So that part is good. All right, so step 2 is okay. Let's keep going. Step 3. The derivative of sine is negative cosine. Not true. Okay, the derivative of sine is positive cosine. So that's the mistake right there in step 3. All right, so that's it. Step 3 was the mistake. All right, one more. Rhea tried to find the derivative, cosine of x divided by x squared minus 6. Step 1, this is the quotient, so we should use the quotient rule. Yes, that is correct. All right. And step 2, she's taking the derivative of the original. So we're going to make the numerator equal to u and the denominator equal to v. What's the quotient rule? Bottom times the derivative of the top, so that's vu prime, minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, that's uv prime, and that whole thing is divided by the bottom squared. All right, let's see if that's what she did. So you keep v, so keep x squared minus 6. She did that. Take the derivative of cosine of x. She did that. Minus sign. Yes, that's correct. Keep the u. So cosine of x. She did that. Times the derivative of v. Derivative of x squared minus 6. She did that. All over the bottom squared. X squared minus 6 squared. Step 2 is all good. All right, let's keep going. Step 3, the derivative of cosine is sine. No, that is incorrect. The derivative of the cosine is the negative sign. All right, so that's it right there. The mistake is in step 3. Step 3.